I thought I had everything figured out. Married to my college sweetheart's steady job as an IT project manager, a house in the suburbs with a two-car garage. Lauren and I had built what I believed was a solid life together. But somewhere along the way, she started looking at me differently. Like I was not enough. Like our safe, predictable life was suffocating her. Then she met Derek at the gym, a personal trainer with tattoos and a motorcycle. The kind of guy who lived for the moment and never thought about tomorrow. 3 months later, she was packing her bags in our bedroom. I stood in the doorway, frozen as she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You are weak, Brent. I need a real man." Before I tell you how this story ends, I want to know something. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever felt like you were not enough for someone. And subscribe, because what happened 2 years later will change everything you think you know about strength. Now let me take you back to the night my world fell apart. Lauren and I met during our sophomore year at college. She was studying nursing and I was deep into computer science. We bonded over late-night study sessions at the library and cheap pizza on Friday nights. It was not dramatic or explosive. It was comfortable, easy, real. We dated for 6 years before I proposed at the same park where we had our first real conversation. She cried when I got down on one knee. She said yes before I even finished asking. The first 3 years of our marriage were good. Maybe not fireworks every day, but we were happy. I landed a solid position at a tech company managing software projects. Lauren worked at a hospital downtown. We bought our first house together, painted the walls ourselves, argued about furniture placement, laughed about how neither of us could cook anything beyond pasta. It felt like we were building something that would last. But somewhere around year 3, things shifted. Lauren joined this upscale gym across town. At first I thought it was great. She seemed more energized, more confident. She started dressing differently. Brighter colors, tighter clothes. She talked constantly about her workouts, her new friends at the gym, and especially about Derek, her trainer. At first it was casual mentions. "Derek showed me this new exercise today." Then it became more frequent. "Derek says I have incredible potential." I tried to be supportive, I really did, but then came the comparisons. She would come home from the gym and look at me sitting on the couch with my laptop working on project reports, and I could see the disappointment in her eyes. She started making comments. Little digs at first. "You never take risks, Brent." Or "Do you ever think about just doing something crazy?" Just once, I brushed it off, thought maybe she was just restless, going through something. I suggested we take a spontaneous weekend trip to the mountains. She rolled her eyes. "That is not what I mean. That is still you planning everything out." I did not know what she wanted from me. The distance grew. We stopped having real conversations, stopped touching each other the way we used to. She stayed out later after her training sessions, came home smelling like expensive cologne that was not mine. I knew something was wrong, but I kept telling myself it would pass, that we would work through it. That is what married people do. Right, they work through the hard times. Then came the night that changed everything. It was 3 months before she actually left. Lauren came home at 11 at night. She had texted earlier saying she was grabbing dinner with friends from the gym. I was still awake sitting at the kitchen table going through some work emails. She walked in and I could tell she had been drinking. Not drunk but loose, relaxed in a way she never was around me anymore. I asked her if she had a good time. She said yes. Then her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She had left it there while she went to the bathroom. I was not the type to snoop. I never had been. But the screen lit up and I saw the name. Derek, and below it, a message preview. "Cannot wait to finally be together without hiding." My stomach dropped. I did not pick up the phone. I just stared at it until the screen went dark again. When Lauren came back, I asked her directly, "Are you having an affair?" She stopped, looked at me, and for a second I thought she might deny it. Lie to my face, but she did not. She just sighed, like I had asked her the most exhausting question in the world. "Derek makes me feel alive," she said. "You make me feel dead inside." I asked her what she wanted. if she wanted to work on us, go to counseling, anything. She shook her head. I want a divorce, Brent. I want a real man who is not afraid to live. The words hit me like a physical blow. I sat there silent as she walked past me and up the stairs. I heard her in our bedroom opening drawers, pulling clothes off hangers. I should have said something, should have fought, but I could not move, could not speak. When she came back down with 2 suitcases, she stopped in front of me. You are weak, Brent. You have always been weak. I need someone strong. Then she walked out. I heard her car start, heard it pull out of the driveway. And then there was just silence. I sat there in our kitchen surrounded by the life we had built together and felt like everything I thought I knew about myself had just been torn apart. The first 2 weeks after Lauren left were the worst of my life. I barely functioned. I called in sick to work, could not eat, could not sleep. I kept replaying her words in my head. Weak. That is what she called me. I started questioning everything. My job, my personality, the way I lived my life. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was boring, predictable, not enough. My best friend Marcus showed up on day 14. He did not call first, just knocked on my door until I answered. When he saw me unshowered, still in the same clothes I had worn for 3 days, he pushed past me into the house. This ends now, he said. He forced me to shower, made me sit down and talk. I told him everything, about Derek, about what Lauren said, about how I felt like I had failed as a man. Marcus listened. Then he said something I will never forget. Do not chase her. Do not beg. Work on yourself. Not to get her back, but because you deserve better than this. But part of me still wanted to fight for her, to prove I could change, be more exciting, more spontaneous, more like Derek. Marcus shook his head. You have been apologizing for being yourself. Stop. I did not understand what he meant at first, but I made an appointment with a lawyer anyway. Filed for divorce. Lauren did not contest it. She wanted it done quickly. Through mutual friends, I found out she had moved in with Derek within 2 weeks of leaving me. 2 weeks, like our 7 years together, meant nothing. I made the mistake of looking at social media, saw pictures of them together, rock climbing, skydiving, road trips on his motorcycle. She looked happy, radiant, like she had finally found what she was looking for. And I felt like I was drowning. I sat alone in our house now, just my house, and asked myself what was wrong with me. Why was not I enough? That was my lowest point. Sitting on the floor of the bedroom we used to share, holding her pillow, wondering if I would ever feel whole again. And then a question came to me. A question that changed everything. What if being weak was actually being strong enough to care? What if the problem was not me at all? 2 months after she left, I started therapy. My therapist, Dr. Patricia Simmons, was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who did not let me wallow. In our 3rd session, she said something that cracked me open. Your stability is not weakness, it is maturity. The people who call you weak are often running from their own emptiness. I started journaling and processing everything I had been holding in. Slowly, I began to see things differently. By month 3, I returned to work, but this time I threw myself into it with new focus. I led a major project developing a new software system for healthcare providers. It was challenging, complex, and exactly what I needed. I started going to the gym. Not Lauren's gym, a different one. I was not trying to become someone else. I just needed to clear my mind. I started running, lifting weights, not for anyone else, just for me. I reconnected with old hobbies I had abandoned. Photography. I had loved it in college but stopped when life got busy. I started hiking on weekends, bought a new camera, took pictures of landscapes and sunsets. I read again. Books I had been meaning to get to for years. I rediscovered what I actually enjoyed when I was not trying to be what someone else wanted. 6 months after Lauren left, I got promoted to senior project manager. My boss told me my dedication and innovation had not gone unnoticed. I started attending industry conferences, met people who respected my work, my mind, my approach. I made new friends through a hiking group, Jake, an architect with a dry sense of humor, Sarah, a teacher who loved bad puns. We would meet every Saturday morning and just walk, talk, laugh. I started to genuinely enjoy my own company again. I stopped checking Lauren's social media, stopped wondering what she was doing, stopped comparing myself to Derek. I focused on building the life I wanted, not what someone else expected me to have, and slowly I started to feel like myself again, not the broken version of myself, just me. And that was enough. By the end of year one, I bought my own place, a smaller condo downtown, modern, clean lines, big windows. I decorated it myself, chose every piece of furniture, every painting on the wall. It was my sanctuary. My career continued to flourish. I led successful projects, gained respect in my field, got offers from other companies. I started dating casually, met a few women. Nothing serious. I was not rushing into anything. I had learned what I actually wanted in a partner, someone who valued stability, not scorned it. My confidence grew, not because I became someone else, but because I accepted who I was. I liked who I was, and I refused to apologize for it anymore. As year two approached, I was genuinely happy, at peace. I had heard through Marcus that Lauren and Derek were struggling, that Derek had lost his job, that she was working 2 jobs to support them. I felt nothing when I heard that. No satisfaction, no vindication, just a distant sense of sadness for her. But it was not my problem anymore. I had moved on completely. I was seeing someone casually. Emma, a graphic designer with a sharp wit and a kind heart. We had met at a coffee shop. She spilled her latte on my laptop bag, apologized profusely. I laughed it off. We got to talking, exchanged numbers, started seeing each other. It was easy, comfortable. She knew my story, all of it. And she did not see my steadiness as a flaw. She saw it as strength. Life was good, stable, fulfilling. I had built something I was proud of, and I did not need anyone's approval to feel that way. It was a Saturday morning, exactly 2 years and 3 months after Lauren walked out. I was in my kitchen making coffee, planning to meet Emma for brunch at this new place downtown she had been wanting to try. The sun was streaming through the windows. I was humming along to some song on the radio. Life felt light, uncomplicated. Then the doorbell rang. It was 8:47 in the morning. I was not expecting anyone. I walked to the door and opened it. And there she was, Lauren, standing on my doorstep. But she did not look like the woman who had left. She looked exhausted. Older, like the past 2 years had aged her a decade. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing sweatpants and an old hoodie, and she was crying. The moment she saw me, she broke down completely. "Brent," she sobbed. "I made a terrible mistake." I stood there frozen. I had not seen her since the day our divorce was finalized. We had done everything through lawyers. And now here she was, on my doorstep, falling apart. My first instinct was to close the door, to protect myself from whatever this was. My second thought was that this was the moment I had imagined 1,000 times in those first few months after she left. The moment she realized she was wrong. The moment she came back. But standing there looking at her, I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction. Just a mild sense of pity. And maybe a little curiosity about what had brought her here. I stepped aside and let her in. Not because I still loved her, but because it seemed like the decent thing to do. She walked into my living room and looked around, taking in the space, my space. She sat down on my couch, still crying, trying to compose herself. I did not sit next to her. I sat in the chair across from her, kept my distance, and I waited. She took a shaky breath and started talking. The words poured out of her like a dam breaking. Derek was not who she thought he was. The adventure, the excitement, it was not real. It was just instability dressed up as freedom. 3 months after she moved in with him, he quit his job. Said he wanted to find himself, explore his passions. She supported him at first, thought it was brave, but he never found another job. He started a protein supplement MLM scheme, lost money. Then he got into crypto day trading, lost more money. Then he decided he wanted to be a life coach. That lasted 2 weeks. She was working full-time as a nurse. Then she picked up weekend shifts at a clinic just to keep them afloat. She paid rent, utilities, groceries, everything. While Derek sat at home talking about his next big idea, she drained her savings account, the one we had started together. Gone. All of it. Spent on his schemes and his ego. And when she tried to talk to him about it, tried to ask him to get a real job, he got angry. Told her she did not believe in him, that she was just like everyone else, that she was boring. The same word she had called me. The eviction notices started coming. Creditors called at all hours. The excitement she had craved turned into constant stress, chaos, fear. And through it all, Derek kept telling her it would all work out, that he just needed one more chance, one more idea. But it never did, and then, 6 months ago, she found out he was cheating on her with a 22-year-old client from back when he was still training. When she confronted him, he did not even try to deny it. He just shrugged and said she had gotten old, boring, that he needed someone who still had energy, someone who could keep up with him. She moved out that night, went to stay with her sister. She had nothing, no savings, no home, just debt and humiliation. She had been living with her sister ever since, working double shifts to try to pay off the credit cards Derek had maxed out in her name. She looked at me with desperate, pleading eyes. I was so stupid, Brent. You were everything I needed. You were the real man all along. I see that now. She reached for my hand. I pulled it back, gently, but firmly. She did not seem to notice. Or maybe she did not care. Can we try again? She asked. I know I do not deserve it, but I have changed. I understand now what matters. Please, Brent, I need you. I have always needed you. The old me, the me from 2 years ago, would have crumbled in that moment, would have taken her back, would have tried to save her, would have believed that love meant rescuing someone from the consequences of their choices. But I was not that man anymore. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw clearly what I could not see before. She did not love me. She loved what I could provide: stability, security, a safety net. She was not sorry for hurting me. She was sorry that her adventure had failed, and she wanted me to fix it. I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. Lauren, I said quietly, I'm sorry you are going through this. I really am, but I'm not the solution to your problems. I never was. Her face crumpled. But we were good together, she insisted. We can be again. I know we can. I shook my head. We were never good together, Lauren. I was good to you. There is a difference. You did not leave because I was weak, I continued. You left because you did not value what I offered. You wanted excitement, chaos, drama, and you found it. But what you are asking for now is not love, it is rescue, and I cannot do that for you. She tried to argue, made promises, swore she had changed, that she understood now what she had lost, that she would never take me for granted again. But I had heard enough. I stood up, walked to the door, opened it. She looked at me stunned. Brent, please, she whispered. I looked at her one last time, and I said the only thing that felt true. I know you need me, Lauren. I know. Then I waited for her to leave. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she stood, walked past me, and left. Again. I closed the door behind her, leaned against it, and exhaled. After Lauren left, I stood there for a moment, leaning against the door, feeling a wave of unexpected emotion wash over me. It was not regret, it was not longing, it was grief, but not for her, for the man I used to be, The man who would have taken her back without a second thought. The man who believed that love meant sacrificing yourself until there was nothing left. That man died the night she walked out 2 years ago. And I was grateful for it. I called Marcus, told him what happened. He was quiet for a moment, then asked, "How do you feel?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "Free," I said, "completely free." He laughed, not mocking, just relieved. "Good, that is the right answer." I texted Emma next, told her I needed to postpone brunch. She responded immediately. "Take all the time you need. I am here when you are ready." No questions, no pressure, just understanding. That was the difference. That was what a real partnership looked like. I spent the rest of the day alone. Not because I was sad, but because I needed to process what had just happened. I walked to my favorite coffee shop, sat by the window, watched the city move around me, and I realized something. Lauren's return was not about me at all. It was confirmation that I had made the right choice 2 years ago. Not just in letting her go, but in choosing to rebuild myself instead of chasing after someone who did not see my worth. I thought about everything I had learned in those 2 years, about strength, about what it actually means. Society tells men that strength is aggression, dominance, risk-taking, living on the edge. But I learned something different. Real strength is consistency, reliability, emotional honesty, showing up day after day, even when it is not exciting, even when it is not glamorous. The man Lauren left, the one she called weak, was actually stronger than the so-called real man she chased. Derek's strength was performance, loud, flashy, ultimately hollow. My quiet strength built careers, maintained friendships, created a stable life that could weather storms. The irony was almost funny. Lauren wanted a man who lived dangerously, and she got exactly that. Financial danger, emotional danger, complete instability. What she actually needed was what she already had: security, respect, partnership. But she could not see its value until she lost it. And I understood something else too. Some people only appreciate calm waters after they have nearly drowned in a storm. But that was not my responsibility. My responsibility was to myself, to build a life I was proud of, to be with someone who valued me from the start. Someone like Emma. 2 weeks after Lauren showed up at my door, Emma and I made our relationship official. She knew my whole story, every painful detail, and she never once saw my steadiness as a flaw. One night over dinner at her apartment, she looked at me and said, "Your stability is not boring, Brent. It is beautiful. It means you know who you are." That was the difference. Someone who saw my nature as a feature, not a flaw. Someone who did not need me to be someone else to feel fulfilled. My career continued to thrive. I was offered a director position at my company. More responsibility, more pay. But more than that, more respect. My personal life found balance. Strong friendships with people who genuinely cared about me. A healthy relationship with someone who appreciated me. Hobbies that fulfilled me. I never heard from Lauren again. Through the grapevine, I learned she eventually moved to another state, started over somewhere new. I felt no resentment, no anger, just a genuine hope that she found her own peace, whatever that looked like for her. But I also knew that her peace was not my concern anymore. I had spent 2 years building something solid, something real, something that could not be shaken by someone else's opinion of me. And that was worth more than any apology she could have offered, more than any second chance. Because I did not need her validation anymore. I had my own. I thought a lot about what I would want to say if I could go back and talk to the version of myself that stood frozen in that doorway 2 years ago. Watching her pack, listening to her call me weak, unable to speak, unable to move. I would tell him this. People will call you weak when you refuse to play their game. They will call you boring when you will not feed their chaos. They will call you insufficient when they are trying to fill a void you did not create. And none of that is about you. It is about them. The real lesson I learned is this. You do not become strong by becoming someone else. You become strong by refusing to apologize for who you are. Strength is not proving yourself to people who do not value you. Strength is building a life so solid that their opinions cannot shake it. When Lauren showed up at my door, crying, saying she needed me, my response was simple. I know. And it was not cruel. It was honest. I knew she needed me, my stability, my forgiveness, my willingness to rescue her from the mess she made. But I also knew something more important. I did not need to provide it. Not anymore. So let me ask you something. What happens when you stop trying to be enough for people who will never see your worth? The answer is simple. You finally become enough for yourself. And that is where real peace lives, not in someone else's approval, not in being chosen by someone who once rejected you, but in choosing yourself every single day. That is what strength looks like. And no one can ever take that away from you. If this story resonated with you, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me about a time you had to choose yourself over someone who did not see your value. Hit that like button if you believe real strength is not about being loud, but about being solid. Subscribe to this channel because I share stories like this one, stories about real life, real pain, and real growth. And share this video with someone who needs to hear that they are already enough exactly as they are. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that walking away from people who do not value you is not giving up. It is leveling up. Take care of yourselves out there. You deserve it.